everybody is capable of what they set their mind to. And I always, when I talk to people, it's like, how bad do you want it? I know you've heard the whole thing, health is wealth, but really, truly, if you put in the work now, you may save yourself from something later on down the line. And you're absolutely worth feeling great, loving what you see in the mirror, having that positive relationship with food and the positive talk to yourself. Like, you're absolutely worth it. It may not be the easiest journey initially, but it becomes habitual eventually.
Many people want to navigate life with peace and joy, but struggle to connect to their intuition. They find themselves overwhelmed, burned out, and frustrated. My name is Francesca Phillips, and I'm obsessed with spirituality and psychology and how the two can intersect to help you live a successful and intuitive life. I believe each of us can accomplish amazing things through balance and healthy habits instead of burnout. Consider this your go-to resource for where spiritual wellness and mindful productivity meets practical wisdom. If you're craving positivity and want to know how to find the answers within instead of searching endlessly without, then you're in the right place. Get ready to feel supported and inspired. This is the Good Space Podcast. You're listening to the Good Space Podcast, episode number 20. Before we dive in, I want to give my warm appreciation to our reviewer of the week, Broadway Star. And they say, Francesca has really done her research and truly knows how to teach by example. She breaks things down in a way that is easy to understand. I would recommend this podcast to anyone needing a boost in life or wanting to improve spiritually and emotionally. The techniques and tools she provides have truly helped me in the roughest and the best of times in my life. Thank you so much, Broadway Star, for your kind and thoughtful words. It means a lot that the tools I've shared have helped you during such rough times. I'm sending you lots of love and am so grateful for you. If you want to be highlighted in an upcoming episode and help further the mission of the Good Space, make sure to subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts so I can then highlight your review in an upcoming episode. It only takes a minute. You can pause the episode and come right back. Make sure to screenshot this episode on your phone and tag us on your Instagram story at FindYourGoodSpace, #TheGoodSpace, to let me know that you're joining in today, as you know that I love to share those screenshots on our stories too. All right, let's begin. Alex Ferguson is a professional model, health and wellness coach, mental health advocate, and public speaker living in New York City. She has been every size from a 0 to a 12 and has worked as both a curve model and now a straight size model over the last 12 years. She's overcome addiction and eating disorder and trauma. Through her own personal health journey, she fosters breakthroughs and lifelong changes in those she works with. She works to empower others to love who they are, find what healthy looks like for them, discover their confidence, and learn to be comfortable in their own skin. Her hope is that by being authentic to her core values and her love for helping others, she will continue to inspire women worldwide. I'm so excited to dive into everything, but the first question I like to ask is, what is your spiritual practice?
I am a Christian. My faith is what keeps me grounded, and that's what keeps me going every day.
Cool. And do you do anything specific, like a morning routine or, prayer or scripture study? Like, what does that look like for you every day?
Yeah, I definitely get into the word. I do a little bit of a devotional, and then I also journal and just spend some time either listening to worship music or maybe a sermon by a pastor, something to just kind of get my day started.
That's cool. And when you journal, what does that look like? Is it like stream of consciousness or is there a prompt?
It could either be what's kind of being spoken about in my devotional or just kind of my thoughts flowing, writing down what I'm grateful for, what my intentions are for the week or the day or even the month.
Cool. I love that. That seems like it
Yeah.
would be really fulfilling, like a great way to fill yourself up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How do you serve people in your work and how did you get to that place?
Okay. I am a health and wellness coach. I am a model. I'm a speaker and I'm a mental health advocate. I got to the space of health and wellness through my modeling world and journey. I've been every size from a 0 to a 12 and went through a major health journey. I've overcome an eating disorder, addiction, and trauma. And so through all of that and focusing on my mental health, I was able to kind of get to this healthy place where I now want to serve people and help people find what healthy looks like for them.
I love that. And I know that the big reason why we became friends is because we were at an event before COVID and all that stuff happened. And
Yeah,
we were in a group of people. It was like 3 or 4 people, and we all were sharing different things. But then I forget what was said between us. Like, I think you either asked me a really like deep question and I answered, and then we just kind of,
probably.
yeah, which I love because you hardly find that nowadays. But
Right.
I
Right.
remember you and I just kind of like talked for the rest of the time. It was like our own little bubble. And I remember feeling like, wow, this person is not only like beautiful on the outside and inside, but you're not afraid to go there. And especially having just met me that day. And I was like, okay, this is someone I want to be friends with because she's not afraid to be real and to go there. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for people to understand that. So obviously dealing with addiction, dealing with, going from a size 0 to size 12 and having all those different fluctuations would be tough to manage. And a lot of people struggle to even have hope. So, what was it that helped you find hope with all of the battles that you faced? And what was that turning point for you?
I definitely struggled for years with body image and with how, my weight. And the older I got, the more I wanted to model. And I ended up being discovered young at a small size and then going out to LA and being promoted as a plus size model and being encouraged to eat more, to get bigger so that I could make money. And through all of that, I was just in a terrible place mentally and got really heavily into drugs and in the midst of it all, suffering with binge eating disorder. And I had to hit rock bottom in LA to help me move to Nashville, where I kind of struggled with all of that same stuff, but hit rock bottom again and realized I can't live like this anymore. And so I really started to focus on my mental health and I found my faith again. And between those two things, that's what gave me hope of just kind of getting all of the garbage, if you will, into the light, out of the darkness, all this stuff that was isolating me and keeping me almost bound. And like I said, between my mental health, like therapy, and then my going to church and finding that community, that's what really started to give me hope that there could be something different and better.
I love that. So you were in Los Angeles, got into all the bad stuff, then you moved to Nashville, had that, a little of the same, and then it wasn't until you just couldn't wake up anymore the same way and you felt like, okay, I got to make this change. So do you feel that getting yourself in a better environment, like having that community in church and in other places, was that like the big help in addition to wanting that change for yourself?
I think community as a whole is really important when you are trying to grow in any way. And so, yeah, it absolutely was. I needed friends, I needed community and people who supported me, supported my sobriety, supported my dreams and goals. And I was in school during all of this. So it was really important that I had that so I could continue on and finish my education.
Definitely. I mean, that must have been like such a long battle as well, right? I mean, I know it didn't happen.
It was not overnight. It was not overnight. Not at all. It's taken years to get to where I am now. And I'm grateful that I hit those rock bottoms and that I went through what I went through because now I can speak to it and help others through it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So what drives you now with your work with other people? What is it that you do and how do you serve them?
Yeah. So health and wellness coaching is my biggest thing I'm super passionate about because I want to see people's lives transformed for the better. I think so many of us live in thoughts that we don't like. We're thinking about our body all the time. We don't like it. We are constantly focused on food. How do I eat? How do I exercise? Comparing ourselves. And I think because I struggled so long with my body image and how to eat properly and not treating myself the best I could, I'm now trying to help other people see that they don't have to live that way. They can live healthy, productive, really just good lives.
Absolutely. So if someone comes to you right now and says, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," what are usually the things you look for or the questions you might ask initially from someone?
Yeah. Well, I have people come to me for all sorts of things. I have clients who have had eating disorders and they just need to have that accountability to stay healthy. I have ones who are in the middle of an eating disorder. I have a lot of people come to me to lose weight. So it's really, it varies, depending, but I always assess where they are mentally. Like, how do they see food? What is their intention when they eat? Are they mindful of what they're putting in their body? And are they mindful of their movement throughout the day? And so I focus more on the mental health aspect there, and implementing healthy habits and replacing the bad habits with the healthy habits. Yeah.
That's cool. So let's dive a little deeper then into the mindfulness part, because I love mindfulness and how it applies, because in a spiritual journey, like, we are not our physical bodies. It's just a tool that we use, that the divine soul uses to navigate the physical world. So how does mindfulness and all of that and energy tie into your work?
I mean, it completely ties in, because if you're not mindful of what you're doing, you could really get off path. I think, especially when it comes to food, a lot of us cope with food. So we're not really in our thoughts and living our best life, because we're in the thought of just always eating or always coping with food. And so I look at that a lot with my clients, of just like, are you being mindful about what you're putting into your body? Are you being mindful of the fact that your body deserves the best, or your brain needs to function even better than before, so let's feed it good nutritious food and exercise. So mindfulness is something I definitely teach, and it's not an overnight thing that you learn. It's a practice, and it takes time to develop that practice, and it can always be getting better.
For sure. So say I use food to cope, or I am unconsciously using that as a trigger to just deal with things.
Mhm.
How do I start becoming conscious or aware of that?
One, identifying your emotions when you are eating a lot of food. What are you grabbing? Let's say sugar is the biggest thing for so many people, right? And a lot of people eat it at the end of the day, because it gives us that, almost that little bit of a high. It's like, oh, we just feel good after it, and so every night we reach for it. What has gone on throughout the whole day that makes you want to grab that? Or let's say you're in a not so good work situation, and after work you always go and you grab drinks and fries with friends. Why is that? And so I think, one, identifying the emotions that you have when you are grabbing food is a huge thing. And then also, with some of my clients, like I said, I have them record it, so they can really record what they eat all day and their exercise, because it then shows you, like, wow, what have I done all day with my food and exercise?
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I don't consider myself having, a food issue, but I do have habits like that, where at the end of the night or after a certain time, that's when I grab the chocolate chips, or like that's when I grab food, and that's not healthy for me. I mean, granted, it might not mean that I have like a disorder, but I could be more healthful to myself. So well, first of all, even if someone listening maybe doesn't have a disorder per se, what is the benefit, or why should we care more about taking away the sugar, or like getting a little bit better? And then also, how do you know when you are on that line? Like, how do you know, okay, I have a problem and I need help?
If it's ruling your life, if it's controlling your life, if it's a constant thought, if you're finding yourself, overeating, undereating, all of those things, maybe you're hiding it, or maybe you're, at the end of the day, you're eating thousands of calories. I mean, it could be all these things. I think that's something where you're going to have to do a little internal check of, like, is this the life you want to be living? And if not, what kind of help do you want? Is it therapy? If you're so far into it, is it rehab, or is it getting a coach and having someone to hold you accountable for making healthy decisions? I think, I tell all my clients, what you put in is what you get out. And so if you are putting in all this unhealthy, non-nutritious food, you're probably not going to feel the best. So I think when you can become more in tune with how you feel physically and also mentally after the food and emotionally after the food, that will help you become more aware of what your choices could be, and what you should or should not choose.
Oh, that's really, really powerful, because I always teach that being present and being aware and conscious is like the ultimate spiritual goal.
Oh, yeah.
Oftentimes I feel like it's easy to separate the physical from that spiritual mindset. And it's just, you hit something that was like a light bulb for me. It's like, even so, like, because I always tell people, beware of what you consume, what you read, what you watch, how you spend your time, because that creates the mindset, that creates the action, that creates the habits and the beliefs. Everything you consume affects that. And so sometimes I even forget, oh my gosh, that includes my body. So I love that you said what you put in is what goes out. And you're so right. I need to start including that consumption mindset with the physical. And I think that there has been a separation for me, at least, with that. So I love that you brought that up.
I think a lot of people separate that, because there's that mindless scrolling on Instagram, but there's also mindless eating. You're sitting in front of the couch with a bag of potato chips, and next thing you know, all the chips are gone. And you've scrolled through every Instagram post you possibly can. So it is being more present. And I think the more present we are, I think the more we can give. Our body, I know that a lot of Christians will say this, and I'm sure you've heard it, but our body is our temple, and we only get one body. And I just think it's worth all of us treating it right and well and being able to live in a healthy way.
Absolutely. If someone wanted better energy, what are the first three things that come to mind?
Sleep.
Yes.
Sleep. We are such a sleep deprived society, especially pre-pandemic when everybody was just go, go, go. And you and I both know, living in New York City, that it is just
Yes.
nonstop. And you don't have to live in New York City to not live a nonstop life. And so I think sleep is just beyond important, not only for your brain functioning, your body functioning, but you're able to be more present. You're able to make better intentional intentions, and decisions with everything. And so sleep is one of them. I'm going to get back to the food. What you put in is what you get out. There are certain foods that just don't sit well with certain people, and that affects everything, with your energy and all of that. And then I would say movement, just getting up from what you're doing to kind of allow yourself to separate, move a little, to go back to what you're doing will give you energy.
Yes. I love that. It's so funny because hearing you say that, I'm like, well, yeah, I know that, but technically I don't know it because I don't practice it as much. Like, especially the sleep part, I have a hard time sleeping as well as I'd like to. And so I don't know if you have any tips for creating better sleep.
Turn your screen off, an hour or so before bed. I wish I practiced that better, but that is something that I have done in the past. And there's a really awesome podcast that I listen to that's called The Quick Brain by Jim Quick. And I can't remember his name, but he wrote Sleep Better. And he talks about what you think of before you go to bed is what you'll think of when you wake up. And so your thoughts before bed, even, I think will help you sleep. If you have anxious thoughts, you're going to have that anxiety fueling you through the night versus having calm thoughts.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said too about that book. I might have to go check it out because I am not as diligent about my thoughts before bed. So that is something I'm going to change tonight, and I will let you know how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all can get better at that. But, at the end of the day, we're doing a replay of everything. And I think if you can be intentional about maybe what you're grateful for, or tomorrow I'm going to have an awesome day and just kill it, those thoughts are going to help you sleep better and then be energized again for tomorrow.
I love that. And then also, I know with the exercise part of it, I just read in an article the other day that even just walking 20 minutes a day decreases like heart problems or risk of heart problems, and like all it's almost like a miracle type of exercise. And
Yeah.
even just walking, I think, is really good to just incorporate into life. And that's something that I want to be better about this week as well.
Absolutely. I think too many of us sit around and we're on our computers, or our work requires us to sit. So just getting up and moving throughout the day, a 10-minute walk, a 20-minute walk is a great idea.
So obviously, most of us are going to listen to this and be like, yeah, this sounds great. This sounds awesome.
Right.
But in reality, most will just continue doing what they're doing, or the motivation to change that habit is can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you find is really the deep rooted belief or problem or issue that really holds people back from actually taking care of themselves?
I think a lot of it comes down to feeling worthy of taking care of yourself. Maybe you didn't grow up seeing your family take care of themselves, or you're not in a really healthy situation at home or at work, and so you just don't feel like you have the energy or you're worth it. But like I said earlier, you only get one body, and it's important that you do take care of yourself. Number 1 for you, but also so that you can do your best and give your best in the things that you do love and that you are passionate about. When it comes down to how do you even begin? Small steps, maybe it is just that a 10-minute walk, and that's what you implement for a week, and then you increase it by 5 minutes the next week. Something small. Don't set yourself up for failure with this huge goal of like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in a month, because let's be realistic. And so when I work with people, I make really small attainable steps, because I don't like to say goals because that kind of caps you. So steps to the overall lifestyle change that you're seeking.
Yeah, that's really great. I love that you change it from goals to steps because it's always progress, right? We're never going to be perfect. And I agree that when you think of things as goals, it definitely limits. You're not as flexible or able to pivot
Yeah.
to different things. So although you say not to have a goal, is there like a step that we should have in mind? Like, oh, I want to walk every day for 10 minutes for 2 weeks? Or what do you think the thought process should be as far as making progress or keeping track of our progress?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'll touch on. I think accountability is huge. That's one of the reasons I have a coach, is to keep me accountable, and that's why a lot of people hire me, is for that accountability, somebody to keep you on that track. And then as far as steps go, I never initially take away from any of my clients. So let's say they are trying to lose weight. I never take away. I implement healthy, ideal things that will set them on the right path.
That's great. So it's almost like don't deprive yourself,
Yeah.
don't make yourself hate the process, but add into it. And I think James Clear in Atomic Habits talks about that as part of getting new habits is adding into first. And then once you end up enjoying the new habit or the new practice, then you can slowly release whatever isn't serving you.
Yeah, you wean yourself off of something that's not healthy for you anymore.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's really great. And I think a lot of people get, and myself included, we can get hung up on, oh, I have to be at 50 pounds lighter, or I have to be at this successful, or, you have this image, which is good to have an image or idea of where you want to go. But it's almost like sometimes seeing the gap between where you are now and where you are hoping to go, it can be discouraging sometimes. So I love that
Right.
idea of adding it into your everyday life as it is and then seeing how the change happens.
And remember, when you're on this, it's a journey. I mean, it's when I lost all the weight I lost, it wasn't a couple month thing. It was trying to figure out what works best for me, which is different for everybody, and taking it day by day and truly step by step, and having those markers that you want to hit, knowing that there's an overarching reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking too, the thought came into my mind, how do we make this fun?
Yeah. I think, are you doing it maybe with a friend, where every Tuesday you guys go walk in the park? So there's something to look forward to. Are you looking up new recipes? Are you following people on Instagram that motivate you and encourage you rather than discourage you, and that you then compare yourself to? I think it's so important to have that group, that community, that support. And it may be a coach, it may be a therapist, it may be a trainer, it may be just a friend, your mom or dad or somebody. But there are so many ways to make it fun and enjoyable. And there's so many outlets out there to do so. I definitely don't make all my coaching just like rigid, and we talk about other stuff too, and make it fun. So that's very much important when you are making these changes, because life's meant to be enjoyed. you're going to have your days where you're super motivated and you just want to kick some rear and like conquer the world. And then there's the days where you're just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? It would be so easy to fall back into old habits or old ways, but you have to have those motivators, whether it is your family or just knowing that there's somebody you have to say hi to on the street when you pass them or something. It just anything, finding those little motivations are what's going to keep you going.
Absolutely. And even if it's just like, I know for me, it's the role model aspect.
Yeah.
My past wasn't as heavy as that, but like thinking to the times where I didn't want to wake up and I didn't have a direction or purpose. And I remember how painful that was. And so that helps me as well. Question. So I'm thinking too, people don't have to hit rock bottom, right? To want to
No,
change.
no, absolutely not. I think my story isn't the most common because I know there are people who've struggled with what I've struggled with, but you may just be sick and tired of seeing what you see in the mirror, or you're just like, I don't even know how to live a healthy way. Can someone help me? Like, just how do I make these changes? Sometimes I have a client currently who's doing this because she has kids and that's what motivates her. So she's like, I'm going to make this lifestyle change to be an example to my children. So it doesn't have to be you hitting rock bottom. It could just be simply saying or thinking, I need to make this change for me and I'm worth it.
Yeah. And I'm sure you don't want people to hit rock bottom. Like, I wanted to point that out that like someone can hire you or like do something to better themselves, not having to have the worst thing in the world happen, which I think is
No.
so great. And um, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
No, I work with all kinds of people, and you don't have to go through what I've gone through to make changes in your life. And I'm thankful that I have gone through what I've gone through because I am able to speak to all varying types. The ones who've not really had a lot of struggle but just want to make the change, or the ones who've really had a lot of struggle and don't know where to start. So, yeah, I work with a wide variety.
Well, that's good. No, that's really good. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I'm getting from our conversation is to just remember like why you're doing what you're doing. If you don't have that why, to figure it out, because
Yeah.
the physical and because I just know that even with my own work, there have been some weeks where I only do one yoga class, but it's like 30 minutes. And I notice my energy just like sinks. And then I'm like, I got to get back to working out, because to me, when I'm physically moving, that equates to more mental energy. And I've learned to make that connection. And so I think it's so valuable, like you said, to just be aware, like what emotion am I feeling
Right.
before, after, like what differences do I notice when I am working out, when I'm not. So it's almost just like being your own advocate in your life to understand how everything
Absolutely.
interacts.
Absolutely. And I think when you have that mindfulness and you do end up having more energy, whatever, you're able to pour back into your spiritual practice or into your intentional living. And I think that's so important. And I think so many people are lacking that right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it reminds me of something Oprah said, where she says that if you don't fill yourself up, you won't have anything to spill over to other people. So it's almost like your duty and your responsibility to fill yourself up, because you won't be useful in the world or to your family or to your work or whatever it is. So this actually is like the one of the most important things you could ever do for yourself.
Is care about your health, your wellness, and really it's all encompassing your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And when you can pour into all of that, it will just overflow and you'll have this abundance to give to others.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so where can everyone find you, and do you have anything going on that they can join, or like tell us all of the things?
Yeah, I'm officially launching my coaching program very soon. I'm going to be offering several different options for coaching. And you can find me on Instagram at the Alex Ferguson. And I also have a website, thealexferguson.com. Yeah.
Great. And we'll make sure to link everything that you mentioned as well. So if you
Yeah.
want to click through, you can go to the show notes and we'll have everything there.
Well, I just thank you for having me. And I really look forward to connecting with your audience. And if people want to reach out, feel free. I'm always available. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Alex, so much. I really enjoyed talking to you and just everything that you shared. It really resonated. And I know already about 3 things I'm going to change once we're done. So I really appreciate
Oh,
that.
good. You're worth the changes. So, and so is your audience.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Now it's time for an affirmation. I intend to attract all-encompassing health into my life. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, I serve my highest and healthiest self so I can better serve those I love. If you found today's tips inspiring or thought-provoking, share it right now on social media and make sure to tag me at Francesca A. Phillips or at Find Your Good Space, and also weigh in the comment section at findyourgoodspace.com. You can find links in the show notes. And if you have a spiritual or mindfulness problem that you want me to unpack on an upcoming The Good Space episode, or an awesome manifesting story you want to share, give my podcast phone line a ring right now at 917-719-0867. Also, don't forget to download my free morning routine guide. It's what helped me reduce my anxiety, increase productivity, and so much more. The link to everything I mentioned is in the show notes. See you soon.